Sisters and brothers, it's been 16, almost 17 years since the horrific attacks of 9/11. And we still, as a community, find ourselves unprepared in so many moments. Why, sisters and brothers? Why are we so unprepared? Why are we so afraid of this administration and the potential chaos that they will ensue on our community? And we already saw their potential when they come out every few weeks. Muslim ban 1, Muslim ban 2, Muslim ban 3. They are relentless, they are persistent and consistent, and want to see how much we as a community can endure, and want to see who our friends are and how hard we're going to fight back against this administration. And I hope that we, when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House. We have to stay outraged. Do not criticize me when I say that we as a Muslim community in these United States of America have to be perpetually outraged every single day. When I wake up in the morning and I remember who's sitting in the White House, I am outraged. This is not normal, sisters and brothers. Those people sitting in the most powerful seats in this country is not normal. So do not ever be those citizens that normalize this administration, because when the day comes that something horrific happens to us or to another community, you will be responsible for normalizing this administration. Our number one and top priority is to protect and defend our community. It is not to assimilate and to please any other people in authority. Our obligation is to our young people, is to our women, and make sure our women are protected in our community. And our top priority, even higher than all those priorities, is to please Allah and only Allah.
But as you're saying this, I'm thinking of something very specifically that Linda Sarsour, who I'm sure you know...
I spent an evening with Linda Sarsour in Brooklyn some years
Really?
ago. Yeah, a couple of years ago.
How did that go before I tell you my little anecdote?
I don't think we got on roaringly. I sensed some sexual tension, actually. There was a bit of sexual tension in the room. Unavoidable. But no, the fact is, actually, we're asked to debate the Kroc phantom word Islamophobia at the Brooklyn Art Museum, and I like a challenge, and I think our mutual friend Ayaan Hirsi Ali was also meant to be there, but various things happened. The Garland shooting happened, and it was decided it wasn't safe for Ayaan. I still did it and things, but yeah, the whole thing, it started off with the other side sort of giggling about the fact that sort of Ayaan couldn't even turn up, you know, they were sort of using it against her, and
as if Ayaan's afraid of anybody.
Yeah, I mean. Yes, I encountered Linda Sarsour before she became, as it were, infamous, and I thought she was a very nasty, very bitter, very un-American, actually. I just say that because she knows, like all demagogues, how to introduce herself. And introduce herself as a sort of proud Brooklynite, a proud American, a proud Palestinian, etc., etc. I thought in an interesting order. But it was clear that she sort of really hated America, or at least hates the America that exists currently, because it was me that ended up having to explain to the audience that, for instance, the New York police don't just go around persecuting Muslims. You know, it's just a willful misrepresentation of the American authorities at every turn. Mm-hmm. So I thought she was very dishonest, very unpleasant. But I mean, I've come across her type all my life.
Yeah, and the only reason I mention her is because of what you said previously, which really was about assimilation. The whole point of America is to assimilate. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw that speech she gave about 2 months ago where she called for jihad, and then suddenly the left was defending the word jihad, and the white supremacists in the White House and all that. But I thought the key part of it, put jihad aside, put white supremacy aside, the key part was when she said, we're not here to assimilate.
Yes.
I thought, that is the antithesis of the American project. This amazing melting pot that we have, where we've done, for the most part, multiculturalism right, where Europe has failed in a lot of ways, and she was saying no.
No, absolutely.
And I thought that was more dangerous than the other stuff.
Absolutely, of course. I mean, as you say, but put aside the fantastical idea that what she was suggesting was, you sort of have a jihad by kind of going and just really struggling in front of a Jew somewhere. Like, I'm just struggling in front of this Israeli. It's just one having a turmoil.
Yeah.
This is what I recognized the night we met. I mean, she really doesn't like this country. By the way, I mean, we all have a problem about that. Is what you do about that. It seems to me she's a sort of very rabid sectarian sort of Palestinian nationalist who happens to live in Brooklyn. But, I mean, really what you do about it is that people identified that, recognized it, and called it out for what it was, what it is, and there just aren't very many people who do that still. I mean, we all take sort of baby steps on this, don't we? As you say, you end up with the left sort of defending, well, she probably meant this, and actually, why don't you just say, look, she's not speaking as a critic of our society who wants to sort of mildly improve it. She's speaking as an opponent of our society because she doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. Now, I've encountered this, I say, all my life in my opponents and the very close enemies I've made in Britain and across Europe, a certain type of person of that ilk who clearly speaks as an opponent of the society. They don't like it. And, of course, among other things, all you can do is point out then is to say, amazing you're here, really, isn't it?
Linked with the Muslim Brotherhood. A lot of their founders were associated with the Muslim Brotherhood. They were linked with the Holy Land Foundation trial in 2007. The Holy Land Foundation was sending money to terrorist groups, and CARE was linked with them. CARE has been named as a terrorist group, actually, by the United Arab Emirates. So they are a very nefarious group, and yet they are the ones out there defending Linda Sarsour. What was irritating about this interview was that it was very difficult to get a word in edgewise because this guy decided to talk over me. But you can see the same people who say they're moderate refuse blatantly, point blank, to condemn the Muslim Brotherhood or even Hamas. You'll see it during this interview. I don't think anybody is claiming that she openly called for violence against President Trump, but jihad means more than just internal struggle or quote-unquote struggle for good. I mean, we all know that there are terrorists all over the world who invoke the word jihad as justification for what they do, and Linda Sarsour knows that too. I mean, she knows how to make a headline. She is a radical anti-Semite who has backed terrorists in the past. She's a person who has said that I am
Stop smearing her. Don't smear a woman who's not here to defend herself. You just don't like a vocal American Muslim woman proudly standing for justice. Don't smear a woman who's not here to defend herself. Shame on you.
Okay, I'll talk about CARE instead. CARE is an organization that was an unindicted co-conspirator in the Holy Land Foundation.
Right, shift the topic, exactly. Never indicted. Don't try to drown out the conversation. Let's talk about what jihad means. Jihad means striving for truth.
I want to point out what happened right there in the interview. So he says, don't attack Linda Sarsour. She's not there to defend herself. First of all, he was there to defend her. That was the entire topic of the segment. Second of all, I said, okay, I won't attack Linda Sarsour. I'll attack you. And then he said, stop shifting topic. Okay, I just want to point out how dumb a tactic that is. It continues along these lines.
And that's exactly what she's doing.
If you want to talk about context, let's talk about the full context.
Yes, go ahead and ask her.
Okay, this is what I want to ask you. The fact that she began this speech by praising a guy who has in the past talked about how jihad includes violent jihad. She started her speech with that. So let's not pretend that you can you're the one taking this one line out of context and then suggesting that it only refers to
I encourage everybody just to listen to the speech for herself.
If you want to reclaim the word jihad, you should start by condemning organizations that promote jihad all over the world instead of associating with them, praising them, and talking about
again, you're misdefining jihad. Jihad means standing for justice. Jihad means standing for justice. It doesn't mean terrorism. And we stand against all terrorists and all those who engage in violence.
Organizations that participate in it. This is not hard. And that was the point. He wouldn't. I asked him point blank, will you condemn the Muslim Brotherhood? No, why would we? Would you condemn the KKK? And I went, yeah, of course I'd condemn the KKK. Why the hell wouldn't I condemn the KKK? Who are you talking to here? Are you kidding me? The KKK ain't exactly my best friends, gang. So it just demonstrates the double game that's being played by a lot of the people on the left and a lot of the people in the Islamic world in order to defend people who really are quite extreme. Linda Sarsour is very extreme. Linda Sarsour, we talked about her entire resume last week, but now she has a piece in the Washington Post talking about how she's a victim. Who's she a victim of? Well, here she says that she's a victim of xenophobes, of course, but she was a little clearer on Twitter. She said that it was white supremacists, and it was white supremacists and Zionists who are the people targeting her. Yeah, that sounds really tolerant of you. It sounds like you're a real tolerant person. Linda Sarsour said, this week, conservative media outlets took a speech I gave to the largest gathering of Muslims in America out of context and alleged that I had called for a violent jihad against the president. I did not. First of all, No one suggested that she called for a violent jihad against the president. We suggested that she used the word jihad, which has violent connotations to lots of people all over the world, and that she knew that when she said it, specifically because she started the speech by thanking a guy who had openly embraced violent jihad in the past. She said, "Sadly, this is not a new experience for me. Since the Women's March on Washington, which I had the privilege of co-chairing with inspirational women from across the country, my family and I have received countless threats of physical violence. Would those threats of physical violence be, along the lines of saying that Ayaan Hirsi Ali should have her vagina removed?" Which is legitimately what Linda Sarsour said about Ayaan Hirsi Ali, a female genital mutilation victim. She says, "The reason is that I am their worst nightmare." She's our worst nightmare. She's not my nightmare. She's my dream. I hope every Democrat embraces Linda Sarsour. I hope every Democrat decides that Linda Sarsour must run for public office on the platform of jihad just means internal struggle against tyrants. Sure. Let's find out. She says, "In my speech, I sent not a call to violence, but a call to speak truth to power and to commit to the struggle for racial and economic justice, except for the Juden. I was speaking to an all-Muslim audience. As an American, I should be free to share and discuss scripture and teachings of my beloved prophet." Okay, you were. No one said you should be shut up. In fact, I would like for you to talk more. So I'm glad that she was writing here. She said, "The attack from xenophobes and conservative media have continued. It saddens me deeply that my 3 children are frightened." Okay, maybe you shouldn't say crazy things. This would not be a justification in any way of violent threats against anyone. In fact, this is sort of what I am decrying here, is you using the word jihad in an advised way in order to be deliciously vague and deliberately vague about the nature of violence. She actually talked about how she hoped that Allah would accept her resistance to Trump as a form of jihad. A form of jihad, not the entirety of jihad, a form of jihad, right? One form among many, meaning that she accepts the possibility of other forms of jihad. She says, "Dissent is the highest form of patriotism, and I intend to continue to push my country to respect the rights of all of its citizens. I will not be silenced." By the way, she says that Zionists, pro-Israel people, cannot be feminists because, of course, they are Zionists, and Zionists are evil. So, once again, Linda Sarsour, beloved of the Democratic Party, if this is something that they want to, if this is where they want to make their last stand, is defending Linda Sarsour, more power to you, gang. I mean, just enjoy yourself. Okay.